Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to this Hawaii News Now special live stream. I am Dylan Ancheta in the Hawaii News Now Digital Center. We are awaiting a live press conference with Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi regarding fiscal year 24 budget highlights. He will be signing some bills, and it looks like he just stepped up to the podium. Let's go ahead and take you live to Honolulu Hale.
In our city. So first of all, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the City Council. You know, we're here to sign the budgets, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But that body of work is a major undertaking. So that said, I want to start off by acknowledging floor leader and Council Budget Chair, Radiant Cordero. Thank her for her leadership and the work that went into that. We have other members. Vice Chair Esther Kiaina is here. Tommy Waters may visit or not, but we're not sure yet. But certainly Esther, leaders, Matt Wires here, Val Okimoto's here, Tyler Dos Santos Tam just came in. I don't think I've missed anybody. But they've been our working partners in creating the documents that we're going to sign today. So toward that end, I want to recognize our team, starting first and foremost with Andy Kawano, who you'll be hearing from in a few moments, our Budget and Fiscal Services Director, his Deputy Director, Carrie Castle. Mike Formby's in the room. I have to acknowledge him. Mike's leadership is beyond my ability to express. And Krishna Jairam, our Deputy Managing Director. The countless hours that go on in this kind of planning is really remarkable. So to that end, I also want to acknowledge members of our Cabinet, because what they were able to do was not only understand our vision and what we wanted to get done and where our priorities were, but in working tirelessly with the City Council to forge an agreement that allows us to have a budget plan going to this year that we have a lot of confidence in, and it reflects the priorities that we believe in and what we believe is of absolutely importance for us and what we want to get done for the city in this coming fiscal year. Now, I understand that there's been a long-standing disagreement between Council's authority over the HART budget, between Corporation Council and the Council of and the Council Office of Council Affairs, and actually that disagreement has gone on since 2012 at the inception of HART, and so none of the mayors have signed the budget since that time, including myself last year, being somewhat new to being mayor. However, I am going to sign today. And I'm going to sign because, as I just got done alluding to, the amount of work that's gone into this, the shared agreement that we have with respect to what it is we all want to get accomplished. Our administration, the City Council, what we all believe to be shared beliefs in the priorities. I'm going to sign this budget today. I'm going to sign 3 bills today. I'm going to sign Bill 11, Bill 12, and Bill 14. Bill 11 is the budget, Bill 12 is our capital improvement, and Bill 14 is the tax credit. But and so before I forget, we're going to give you a lot of data, and we toiled over that because I happen to be one who doesn't want to put too much on a slide, but you almost can't help it. So to that end, Scott Humber, our Director of Communications, has prepared a leave behind for all of you, for all these slides. We're going to each give you a copy, which will save you trying to take notes and we'll engage you. But I think to kick this off, because this is really Andy Kawano's moment in time, is our Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, Andy Kawano. Thank
you. Good afternoon, everyone. Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to work with you and the administration to pull the budget together. And I'd like to thank the council members again, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiaina, Budget Chair Cordero, and other honorable council members that Mayor already introduced for your support and for working together genuinely to get the budget to a place that I think will serve us well for fiscal year 2024. Our budget, as adopted by Council, will amount to, in total, $3.41 billion with regard to operations. And for capital improvement programs, we have a budget of $1.34 billion. So the total of the two components amount to $4.75 billion. One of the key starting points of the budget process this year, as we put everything together, we discussed tax relief. All of us received feedback from the various districts about the fact that the real property tax valuations were a lot higher again this year, 2 years in a row. Therefore, we talked about providing relief and especially to those in need. As a result, the mayor proposed a one-time tax credit of $300 to approximately 152,000 homeowners who have the homeowners exemption. The one-time tax credit will be reflected in the tax bills that will be mailed out next month. And the tax credit is equivalent to an additional homeowners exemption of $86,000. I'm going to focus on discussing what the mayor proposed. When Vice Chair Kiaina speaks, she's going to cover the alignment between administration and council members and some additional budget dollars that were added to the priorities of the mayor. And again, getting back to the one-time credit, we kept the credit flat because we felt that if we kept it flat, homeowners with homes at lower valuations will have more of a benefit. And we think we've done the right thing, and look forward to having more discussions with homeowners as they have questions getting through this year, and looking forward to working with the public to assess whether or not we are able to continue tax relief going forward. We have some tax relief measures that we're currently looking at, and we're going to be looking at others as well. One of the mayor's core priorities is addressing affordable housing. Our budget includes $100 million for land and property acquisition for affordable housing, and key point being that we are working with council and implemented revised budget proviso language to facilitate activated transit-oriented development along the rail line. And as Vice Chair Kiaina will share later, council actually added to this amount in the adopted budget, and we feel that we're going to put these dollars to good use. The budget includes $8.4 million for the Affordable Housing Strategic Development Program. We call it the Charter Fund, where we set aside 0.5% of our real property tax revenue annually, and we set it aside for renovation and development of low-income housing. Further, to address homelessness, we set aside $15.4 million for homeless initiatives, including $11.5 million for the continuation of the successful Housing First initiative with regard to the city's involvement with the state in that program, and $1 million to continue the core program, Crisis Outreach Response Engagement, led by our Emergency Services Department, with the aim to remove homeless from harmful situations, to triage, to engage, and determine where to put homeless in the continuum of care to help them to eventually get off of the streets. With regard to public safety and health, the mayor's proposed budget for police, fire, emergency services, ocean safety, and other public safety programs was adopted by council. The combined funding for public safety and health amounted to more than 17% of the city's operating budget, or $591 million. The capital budget includes $7.5 million for improvements to police headquarters and substations, and $5 million for fire station improvements across Oahu. With regard to transit and transportation, the budget sets aside funding for the intermodal mass transit programs totaling $411 million, or about 12% of the budget. $311.2 million for bus and handy van, and $85 million for rail operations make up most of the budget. The operating budget includes $11 million for road resurfacing, and the capital budget includes $35.5 million for road rehabilitation with regard to highways. We also set aside $33.2 million for the implementation of computerized computer systems connecting Oahu's public transportation infrastructure. As the mayor has discussed in the past, there's a big focus on government efficiencies and transformative change. The mayor's budget focused on maintenance of parks and upgrades to park facilities. We set aside $11.9 million for various park improvements, $6.8 million for outdoor play courts and renovation of park facilities, $5.5 million for community development, block grant funds to complete multi-year park improvements across the island, and more than $5 million to preserve Oahu's visitor destinations and facilities at various park properties. With regard to the Department of Planning and Permitting, the mayor's proposed salary and current expense budgets that were adopted will help to strengthen and improve operations and organizational efficiencies in DPP. And then throughout the city, there's going to be a continued focus on hiring and retention improvements by focusing on processes within the Department of Human Resources, and I want to add Budget and Fiscal Services as well. With regard to climate change and adaptation, we're going to be putting in $10.3 million for the electrification of transportation infrastructure and $1.7 million to plan, design, construct the installation of electric vehicle charging stations and renewable energy systems at various city facilities. Our goal is to eventually electrify all of our city vehicles that provide services on this island. I'm going to be calling up Vice Chair Kia Aina. She's going to be covering the council priorities that were incorporated into our operating and capital budget.
Tommy's going to go.
Oh, excuse me, Tommy. Chair Waters.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, for signing this budget. This really was a team effort. We have the budget chair here, the budget committee here, and I got to thank Chair Cordero for her hard work on this budget. As you folks all covered, we were staying here late into the evening on numerous occasions, really grilling each department head and asking them to justify each of their requests. And what we came out with is what you see here today. And I just want to highlight a couple of the things that I think we're really proud of. One is public safety. Yeah, a patrolling police officer is the best deterrent to crime. We're putting an additional $40 million into HPD's budget. $40 million, that's significant. On top of the $12 million that we gave them last year, that totals $352 million. I know Director talked about $541 for all of public safety, but we're really making an impact here. But we're also going to expect more from our police department. We want the police officers out there patrolling. We want them out there catching the bad guys. Also public safety is our lifeguards. One of the things that we tried to do years ago is the dawn till dusk, right? Just because the lifeguards get off the lifeguards are getting off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but still people are still swimming because there's sunlight out there. We're going to work together to try to get this program up and running, and we put in additional 16 positions for lifeguards. The other thing that I'm really proud of is property tax relief. Working with the mayor and budget director, we found additional money in order to give it back into the pockets of our constituents. Now, Bill 14, working again with Budget and Fiscal Services, we found additional money to increase the one-time tax credit from $300 to $350. The other thing we worked on was Resolution 23-33, which changes the rates. Now, the rates haven't been changed in years, you folks, years. One of the things we came up with working together again with Budget Chair and the Permitted Interaction Group, actually, we tinkered with the residential aid. These are for people who own second homes, and we hope that these are landlords, I should say, and these are rental properties. And we hope, and I'm asking folks who have these properties to take that tax relief that you're going to get, in some cases up to an additional $500. Either put it back into your rental property by sprucing it up and making it more livable, or passing that savings on to your tenant. That's what our hope is when we tinkered with that. And then lastly, just talking about one thing that's really significant that Director Kawano and Mayor did, and that the council also bought into, was the previous administrations had what was called a provisional vacant position account. And there was up towards $30 or $40 million in that account. And anytime a department wanted to fill a vacant position, they had to go through the mayor's office and then come through the council, and we sign off, and then they're allowed to fill these positions. What we did this year is we put the money into the departments so that the departments can provide better city services without having to come through the city council for that change. So that was significant. So you're going to see a bump in every single department, whether it's parks, land management, facilities maintenance, design and construction. We put the money into their departments with the hope that they're going to fill these vacant positions. And if you fill these vacant positions, we should be able to provide better city services. And that was coming from the administration. And I thank you, Mayor, because this is a really great budget. And the fact that the mayor is signing it today, too, guys, that's significant. I'm super stoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. Two things.
No, you did that.
I just want to add a little bit of color to what Chair Waters just said. With respect to our staffing levels, it's not a small undertaking. And how things have happened historically has been what it's been, but we decided to say we're going to take a different direction here. As you all know, though, it's not going to be easy. So I really appreciate the understanding that went into this, because today's labor market is one of the more difficult labor markets we've seen in a long time. But knowing that we have streamlined our processes and have positions ready to fill, we stand on notice and everything that we can possibly do to really up our recruiting efforts, because the city is only going to work according to the quality of the men and women who work for the city, and we know we need that. The other thing I want to mention briefly, and I'm really proud of the council because they pushed us. We thought at the time we proposed $300 as far as a tax credit, that we were pushing the envelope, because that amounted to some $43 million. And that said, finding the extra money and being able to work and continue to push, understanding what those assessments meant this year to so many people, and has been indicated by both Andy Kawano and Chair Waters, we wanted to take care of the people most in need. So that $350, while it may sound like a small number, if you will, that equates to another $100,000 in home exemptions to those 152,000 homeowners. So at the end of the day, in the aggregate, knowing that they get $100,000 to begin with, that's a $200,000 exemption. And for a lot of the houses on the lower end of the spectrum, that's really going to mitigate, in some cases, the appreciation they had. And that's what we were trying to do. And this was, I'm always hesitant to say unprecedented, but this effort, the way we did it, because of the circumstances, in the way the retail sales spiked, was unprecedented. It had been done once before for, I think, a number of $200, but this $350 is significant. And so we're really hoping, when you break it down, that this is real relief. And I think people are going to feel that and appreciate it, and that was one of the things. And so that in the aggregate, I believe, comes up to a number of around 53 million, if I'm not mistaken. So it was great to be able to collaborate on that, because we saw that as, quite honestly, I think if you remember, all of you who were covering us, we were really open about being surprised by that. That really caught us. And, we're still in a very much of a post-COVID environment. And doing this budget and coming up with the agreement we had to establish the monies we need to set the priorities. And I love the fact that Chair Waters brought up, and so did Andy, with respect to how much money we're putting to public safety. And yet again, just another murder this morning, and what's going on in this city. So the fact is, I think we've got our priorities straight. We're putting our money where our mouth is, what we believe in. We're doing it on a shared basis, and we're determined to make a lot of significant inroads in the coming year. So this is not insignificant. So with that, I'd like to bring up Budget Chair Cordero.
Whoa, nice. Okay, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Radiant Cordero, the Council's Budget Chair. And I would just like to say we just completed my 11th round of a budget season, my 11th time doing the budget, and I always keep saying that every single budget is never the same. The circumstances, the things that we are faced with is different every single year. And what we will do moving forward is have to look into the future. And a lot of things that we have in the budget, as you saw here, are taking care of things that we are dealing with right now. But what was not mentioned are things that we are also providing hope, but also planning for our future. A lot of the funding went into our TOD, our transit, our mass transit, but also our electrification of transportation, of vehicles, and also looking at focusing on our roads and rehabilitation, looking at drainage, our streams and embankments, looking at sidewalks and utilizing not only our general funds, but our federal funding as well. Also looking into the future, we have to really be aware of all the federal funding that we have now and have utilized in the past few years, and being able to determine, working with the city administration and the rest of our council, to figure out what we still need to fund through our general funds. And that's a conversation that I hope that we can continue looking forward towards in the future as a council. But as we have seen here, lots of dollar signs and lots of priorities. But a lot of this really, and I mentioned in the budget meeting or in a council meeting, tells a story of a priority of our council members. And while the budget process has been basically scrutinizing the mayor's budget, a lot of that priorities has shown through in what we've adopted today. And like I mentioned, this is my 11th budget season that I've gone through, and very rarely, actually, this may be the first budget signing that I've been to where the mayor is going to be signing our budget. So I do want to thank Mayor Blangiardi and his team for being able to not only sign this budget, but being willing to work with us through hours on end, weekends on end, to ensure that we're able to get to a point to really come through for our communities. And I just want to say that the budget doesn't stop here. The budget starts now to continue putting these things out to our communities. So I ask everyone in our communities to reach out to your council members, the city administration, the mayor, to ensure that this money is being put to use in the way that we've prioritized it. Thank you.
Yeah, we got cameras going too. I actually misspoke a moment ago, and that is that I said we had another murder today. I've not been briefed. We had a police shooting today. I don't believe it's a murder, so I want to correct myself in that. But yet, I think what I probably should have said, what I was thinking and have been thinking since Chief Logan texted me this morning, is yet again another situation that warranted, gunfire, if you will. And the other thing I want to add, and in gratitude as we get ready to sign now, is the fact that this budget was approved with all 9 council members unanimously. And not only was it done unanimously this year, that was the case last year, and 60 days after we got into office in our first year. So for 3 straight years. And I'm proud of that because, as Budget Chair Cordero just said, we're trying to build hope back in our community and regain trust with the people out there. And I think one of those important intangibles is to have men and women who are charged with this responsibility working collaboratively together, working diligently together, coming to agreements that we can all say we're there. That's an important element. So I just want to thank you for the universal support, if you will, of everybody and the buy-in. We feel the same way. So with that, I want to sign the documents.
It's the manila folder.
Behind you, Mayor.
We'll wait for a photo op here.
Oh, okay.
Andy, you gotta get up there. That's it.
Go by Andy.
And I'm doing this, right?
Ready?
Freshmen are here just for decoration.
The budget.
Well, it's about to be $1 billion signature.
Yeah. Capital improvement,
Tax credit.
tax credit.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Let's go spend some money.
Well, as you can see, Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi is wrapping up this press conference. He just signed the budget bills there a few moments ago.
I guess we
As you
open it
saw,
up to Q&A now, Scott?
making some final comments. Let's go ahead and listen in if he answers any questions.
I prefer all the questions you go back. Just gonna pull up the chair.
Director,
Yes.
you mentioned briefly about future tax credits or future tax relief. Can you speak to some of that now?
Yeah, in terms of tax, so we're gonna stand up another permitted interaction group with selected council members. The last one included the chair, the vice chair, budget chair, and vice budget chair. And we looked at bills that were up for third reading, and we categorized 30 other bills that, approximately 30 other bills that were in different stages, just introduced at first reading, second reading, et cetera. And we are going to look at those other bills during the second permitted interaction group that focus on exemptions, that focus on the general tax structure for real property taxation. So when I say tax structure, I mean the classification. So we're looking at whether or not residential and residential A, for instance, should be changed to owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied. The structure in that case would be similar to what Maui County does. But we're not saying that, Maui County applies to Oahu. We're very different in terms of demographics and, our budgetary needs. But we're going to take a look at it. We're also going to look at continued credits, tax credits, going forward. And as we look at these different measures for ongoing tax relief, we are going to ensure that we all also weigh the fact that we have to balance the budget, right? We have cost commitments that have to be met. So we'll keep reminding ourselves that we have cost commitments coming up, whether for salary increases, to continue operation of rail, as we continue the expansion of rail towards city center, and as we continue to assess what we need for public safety throughout the island. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, and these tax relief measures are coming this year, next fiscal year, or the following fiscal year?
We haven't set a timeline yet. We're going to do study, and we're going to evaluate and look at data. Vice Chair Kiaina has some thoughts she wants to share. I'll call her up.
Aloha. Tax relief is complicated. You have short-term tax relief measures that we are entertaining, as well as the longer-term tax relief measures, which will likely have to be considered by a second permitted interaction group. But there are two measures that will be moving for final passage before the full City Council, whether it be the July 12th full council or earlier. And that would be Bill 37 from 2022 that deals with tax credits that primarily help our kupuna. Currently, the threshold of 60,000, we are increasing it to 80,000. What that means is that for anyone who earns up to 80,000, they cannot be taxed more than 3% for real property taxes. The second measure is Bill 40, 2022, which provides tax relief for all homeowners, and that would be currently from $100,000 to $120,000. If you are 65 years or older, the threshold will be increased from $140,000 to $160,000. With regard to the other measures that Director Kawano mentioned, including Bill 9 relating to vacancy tax, that is very much on the table, as well as looking at other home exemptions that, not home exemptions, but tax exemptions that whereby properties are taxed at the minimum category, which is $300. All of those are on the table. The City Council's priority was to provide a tax relief for homeowners. In the longer term, we need to look at whether the current tax structure works, and second, where we could derive much needed revenue for many laws that are archaic and need to be revisited. So I just wanted to clarify that we fully intend on moving tax measures at the next full City Council. Thank you.
If I might just add, sort of as a theme, not lost on us, we all know this, we've known it for quite some time, is the cost of living here in Hawaii has gotten beyond the reach of many, many people. So, in the broader context, I think when we talked about what we wanted to get done this year to try to spell relief, you start with the cost of housing and the things that we're going to be doing with affordable housing, both for ownership and for renting. You talk about the cost of energy. I just spoke at a panel last night with the other three mayors on that being such a variable cost and what that does to social equity for a lot of people, especially with our Alice population, given the increased cost there. You talk about food sustainability and the cost of foods. We've all seen through an inflationary cycle. I mean, it's amazing how much our food's gone on. How can we work with the local ag industry and get them into maybe even food manufacturing, things that would really lessen our reliance on the fact that 85% of our food as imported. And in today's market with the shipping costs and everything, we all know what that means. So, this is one instrument across the board. We've tried to look at all of that, and we're incorporating all of that as well. So at the end of the day, one of the things that, happens is that property taxes are the source of funding for the city to run the city, and so, there's a lot of maneuvering that has to happen with that because costs of the city continue to go up, and so we see where the possibilities are, but as Andy said, as Chair Essinger said, this is pretty sophisticated stuff. There's a lot of responsibility that goes with it across all measures, but I promise you, we're very much in tune with that, and we're doing everything we possibly can to spell that relief because we understand the direct impact that has to everybody who lives on this island. Okay? So, next question. From anybody? Lisa.
We have been covering a lot about the upcoming salary increases for the council members and for yourself as well, and just kind of a lot of the community response to that. Today is the last day to bring that up before it does go into law July 1st. So just wanted to see if you had any kind of comment for our viewers who continue to kind of feel upset by that and how that would affect, say, the budget operation.
Well, we've stated what our position is on that, and with respect to our administration, I'll let Chair Waters talk on behalf of the council if he wants to. I think we're beyond comment. But that said, for the last 2 years of waived raises for our team, I know how hard these people worked. In fact, we've opened up this meeting today talking about it and what they're producing. And we've set the bar very high for them. So Mayor Caldwell, prior to our even coming into office, had waived raises that year, understandably, in the middle of COVID. So for 3 straight years, salary increases didn't take place for people working at the city in city leadership positions in administration. I felt that this year, and I alluded to it earlier about the fact that last year I didn't sign the budget and I did this year with the confidence that I have. I wasn't about to say to the Salary Commission this year, I said, no, I put forth the raises, but I had no idea what kind of percentages that would mean or any of that. I just felt that the team had earned that, and that's what we did, and that's what came out in the wash. And I haven't blinked as far as our city administration, because the responsibility that they have for everybody, the amount of hours that this takes, and what they do, and knowing full well the profile of many of these people who came to work at the city in a really dark time. If you remember, we put together our cabinet in November and December of 2020. Things were as dark in this city as I can ever remember, probably for anybody, and forever, actually, with the impact of COVID. And the people who came to work here during those hours that we signed up, who left good jobs in many cases, took pay cuts in many cases. 3 years later, I wasn't about to say that I wouldn't put them forward for a raise. So in that context, I feel very justified for our administration. Okay, I don't know if Chair Waters wants to say anything about it or not. I think he left the room. Okay, and as you know, I would say this about the City Council. We've just said today how hard they've worked with us in the body of work. This job, being the City Council, the responsibility they have to represent their districts, I think has been underestimated by a lot of people who've just focused on the money and not appreciating or understanding not only the responsibility but the amount of hours that go into it in order to do the kind of job that's important. They are at the nexus of the laws that we pass, of the bills that we approve. And if I were to bring in all of the paperwork, if I'd ask Krishna to come in here and show you the amount of work, forget beyond just the countless hours, and weekends and late nights. It's just unfortunate that everybody got focused on percentages and dollars on this one here, and the body of work somehow got overlooked. So that's how I feel about it.
Anything else? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
That was Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi wrapping up this press conference with reporter questions. One of those questions, of course, being the raises set to take effect for the city council and other city leaders as well. He's made his position very clear on that thus far. Again, those raises are set to go into effect on July 1st, and today would have been the deadline for the city council to reject those raises, but a special meeting was not called forth despite 3 of those members on the council declining or wanting to discuss the topic further. As you heard, we had a team there. Our Annalisa Burgos was asking more questions along with our cameraman. They are covering all of this, and they will work to turn this story for later editions of Hawaii News Now. I also want to give you a heads up that coming up at 3 o'clock, Honolulu Police will be holding a news conference regarding that deadly shooting and barricade in the Pearl City, Manana area earlier this morning, and we will stream that right here on your HNN digital platforms. Once again, the news conference with Honolulu Police is happening at 3 o'clock this afternoon. For now, I'm Dylan Ncheta in the HNN Digital Center. Have a great day.